Hi, I'm Cheyenne Dirksen-Schroeder, Managing Editor of the Hutchinson News, and today we are interviewing City Council candidates. You want to go ahead and tell us your name, what race you're running in, a little bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Lovella Kelly, and I'm running in the Northeast District. I've lived in Hutchinson for a long time. I have 6 children, a lot of grandchildren, and I've been really active in downtown activities and church activities, and I'm a nurse, and I've run a business, and this is next.
Okay, sure. At previous City Council forums, we've talked a little bit about quality of life here in Hutchinson, and a lot of your volunteering has been sort of along that vein. Tell me a little bit about where Hutchinson is at right now on quality of life. What are we doing well? Where can we improve? That kind of thing.
Well, it all depends on who you're talking about in quality of life. I think quality of life for middle income and upper income is very good. There are all sorts of activities, there's lots of things happening. And if you don't think so, you just need to check it out, because there really are. Now, in my work with St. Vincent de Paul, we find we have a lot of housing issues, food issues, rent and utility issues, and of course that's a problem. And it affects quality of life, it affects education, it affects where you stand in the world and how you can do something about it.
Okay, sure. You've played a role in a variety of projects here in Hutch, like bringing art downtown, that kind of thing. Why are elements of life here important to preserve? Why is it important to maintain things like art in our community?
Well, things are different now than they were 20 years ago. It used to be that if you needed a job, you went and got a job and then you moved to where that job was. At this point in life, I know lots of people who move here, can work from home, and are looking for a quiet, calmer pace of life than in cities. If you want them here, then you need to make your city attractive, and that's was basics of our thoughts about art in the community. And really, we have a tremendously talented art population in Hutchinson, and it is coming forth like it hasn't ever before. We have really good sculpture, we have murals, we have all kinds of things that really just enhance your quality of life. And if you can pick where you want to live, then who's going to pick a place that doesn't feel welcoming and doesn't have the kind of healthy lifestyle that you want?
Sure. Is it worth city dollars to do that, though, rather than looking for, I know the community already looks for grants and for donors, that kind of thing, but tell me about the value of using city dollars for those efforts rather than relying specifically on a grant or a donor.
Well, what's interesting is that the big art projects, like the Sports Arena project, was funded by an ordinance that was passed by the City Council some years ago that provides 1% for art for every capital improvement project.
Okay.
But the sculpture walk has always been, other than the very first year when we had leftover funds from the streetscape project, has always been privately funded.
Okay.
We had a large fund drive this last year. It was successful, and you know we already are planning for next year. I know people object to using public money for public art, but I think maybe it's because they don't understand what it really means. The other thing about public art is that if you don't like it, that's okay, because the purpose of art is to stimulate conversation, to stimulate interaction, and it's particularly with the sculpture walk. If you don't like it, don't get too upset, because likely or not, they're going to be gone in a year because they're on loan for 1 year, except for the ones that we've been fortunate enough to purchase, and those are, there's some at the zoo, there's some in various places downtown. and they really enhance our community.
Sure. So it sounds like currently the city council buy into art is minimal but still valuable. Is that a good way to rephrase that? Or?
Yeah, as far as tax dollars.
Sure.
For instance, I think this year we don't have a really large capital improvement project going, so there probably will not be any any funds spent. With the next project that's coming up is the little pocket park that's across from the Fox Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be very nice. It's going to be a really appropriate little place for downtown.
Sure. And in some previous conversations, we've talked about building community as an important aspect of improving city growth. You know, that you can't just ask businesses to come in, create jobs, and then expect people to come. That you also have to build these other sort of auxiliary elements like parks, like art, just to ensure that those newcomers to town are happy and stay, rather than just expecting people to move in.
I think it's particularly interesting to me and important because out of 6 children, I only have 1 that lives here. So if you want your family to stay, you need to help them figure out how they can live well in Hutchinson. And I think it can be done. You see, I hear of people about every day that are moving back because they want a better quality of life.
Sure.
The education in Hutchinson is good. We have good private education. We have some good public education. I have a real issue with the way the school districts were set up, but that was done like 30 or 40 years ago, and there's nothing we can do to change it. So we just need to make the best of what we have. And I think that's being done.
I'd like to talk a little bit about housing. So some of your volunteer work has been in the area of housing. Tell me a little bit about where Hutchinson is right now and where we need to be headed to improve.
Housing is a really serious issue because there are so many areas of town that have let their pieces of property really deteriorate and have charged high rents for those. On the other hand, there's only 3 to 5% of the landlords in Hutchinson that are bad landlords. The rest of them do very well, and we might even talk about the rental licensing. The lawyers who are providing good rental property, landlords,
Sure.
Don't have a problem with it because they already maintain their properties. It's the owners that don't maintain, don't care about how the properties look as long as they're getting their money. Those are the ones we have an issue with. And if we go into a home that is really, really bad, we recommend that they report it. That's also a serious issue because if you get reported and the city closes it down, then you have a family on the street. And so, one issue just evolves to the next. The city is working on, they've identified, I believe it's like 500 properties in town that need to be either repaired or raised. And that's a very large number. It leaves us with a lot of empty holes in areas that really need to be developed. If I had a dream project, it would be to build houses in areas that have empty lots, particularly in the area around Cary Park. It's a beautiful area, and it would just be really helpful.
Sure. Tell me a little bit more about the current conversations on rental licensing. Does it do the job it's meant to, which is to penalize landlords that aren't meeting code, whereas landlords that are doing a good job are left unscathed? Do you think it's working?
Well, it's kind of a problem. The program they're working on right now sunsets soon, which means that they'll have to either redo it or drop it. What happened is with this ordinance that was passed was pretty much knocked out of the water by the state legislature. And so it has to be redone. I personally have a problem with people coming into my home and saying, you have to do this and this. On the other hand, the city is also responsible for providing healthy and safe places for people to live. And I guess if you're not capable of doing it, then someone needs to nudge you that this needs to be taken care of. And I know there's been some talk lately about people given 30 days to either do this or do that. But I think if you got down to the truth of the matter, they've had notices before the 30-day notice. Because they've been pretty good about letting you know ahead of time and saying this needs to be done in a year. You can always appeal to get a longer period of time. There are other ways to get help. There's interfaith housing. There's other agencies that, like volunteer agencies, that will help. And so I think if we all work together, maybe we can figure this out.
Sure.
And there is a need for some more low-income housing. It's difficult to get this type of housing built because if you're going to use historic credits or if you're going to use grants, sometimes, it stipulates what you have to build and who can live in it. But for the most part, for instance, the Link building, I actually have 2 grandchildren that live there. And it's a wonderful place. It was designed for disabled or handicapped and also for senior living. And it's full and it's very nice, and that's the kind of thing we need more of.
Sure.
It's not a low rent, and they pay full rent, even though they may be on Social Security or whatever, they pay full rent. And so some more of those would be really nice. I have my eye on the Landmark Hotel. Every time I go by it, I think, oh, somebody please do something about this. It's a beautiful building, and you don't really see it as much driving by it, but if you happen to be on one of the upper floors of the bank, the First National Bank, and look down at that building, it's a very beautiful building.
Sure.
And we just can't lose it.
Right. And even when I'm driving by, the windows are knocked out, or there's, just from the outside, it looks like there's a lot of work to be done.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be an expensive project, but it'll be worthwhile in restoring the history side of things, but the dollars, might not be there.
Well, that's why you have to keep searching for the right developer, and we've been fortunate in the developers that did the Wiley building. They are also the ones who built the Link.
Okay.
The same company.
Sure.
I don't know what the chances are of, of their doing the Landmark. I don't know where that talk is, so I don't really know.
Sure. Let's change gears a little bit. Tell me about an aspect of you or your story that isn't typical of a public servant, but will assist you on the city council.
Well, when you talk about raising a family and being a medical professional and running a business, you learn all kinds of things that assist you in public life. You learn that if you want finances to work, you have to have a budget, you have to look at priorities, you have to do the things that are necessary to make things work. I have had a lot of experience with public service in the areas of co-founded the Ulster Project. My husband and I started a credit union. We started a St. Vincent de Paul. We started the sculpture walk. So people that don't think that one person can make a difference, that's who I want to talk to, because one person can make a difference. And like the old saying is, if you don't vote, don't complain.
Sure. At the forum, we talked a little bit about fighting negative stereotypes in our community. Tell me a little bit about specific ways to shift perceptions, or just even where perceptions are right now, and where change might need to occur.
Well, it's an interesting question because unfortunately there are little groups of people who have opinions that are not right, that are not correct. For instance, I walked into a little restaurant one time where there was a coffee clutch going on, and it was like, oh, all of this sculpture, it's terrible, it's ugly, it's they're wasting our money, and we're stuck with it. And my response was, you know what? If you really knew what was going on, if you really knew that it wasn't a taxpayer event, that it isn't a permanent thing, and then if you don't like it, it'll be gone next year. So if you have to help correct some of those attitudes. And actually, it's a normal thing.
Mhm.
As people get older, they form opinions that are like a brick wall.
Sure,
You know.
and they may not be based in fact. And
Right, and you know, you really need to know what you're talking about before you spout information, you know,
Sure.
because it makes it hard for things to be, you know, some of the things that are, you know, that have really helped are like Third Thursday, events downtown like a rod run, all of those sorts of things can help change people's attitudes because they see what can be done. And there's so many philanthropic things that go on in this town, you know, there's the soup kitchen, there's a group that meet at a church every Friday called Bread and Cup, and they serve anybody who walks through the door a meal. And there's just a lot of things like this that can help change attitudes, only you have to get out and figure out who they are and how you can help.
Sure, and it sounds like at the root of that is awareness or just general kind of information. Is the city's role to make sure residents are aware of these things or just to improve communication?
And communication is always an issue. And actually, in my thought, the city doesn't necessarily have a role in philanthropic things and activities in the community, but it is their role to maybe let people know that these things are going on. Because if it's not involving tax money, it's like, do we really want government interference, you know? It's sort of like the issue over telling Dollar General stores what they can sell in their store. I firmly think that everybody should have access to the right kind of food. But having had a business, I'm thinking that I don't want somebody coming in telling me when I've invested my money in a business what I can or I can't sell. And I don't think that's a government.
Sure.
It should be a government involvement.
Let's talk a little bit more about businesses coming into town. There have been a lot of conversations about economic development and creating jobs, bringing in businesses, starting up entrepreneur sort of things. Should the city look a gift horse in the mouth? You know, if a business wants to come in, does the city question it, or should we just welcome any and all, or what sort of steps should the city take to welcome new business, to create jobs?
Well, that also kind of depends on what the business is. Entrepreneurship should always be encouraged, and you know, the Quest Center can help with those things. People really need jobs, they really want jobs, but it's probably not going to happen that we're going to get large industrial manufacturing jobs, because those probably don't exist for communities this size. You know, once they're gone, they're hard to get back. And not because they don't exist, it's just that that's the way it is now. You know, there's foreign manufacturing has changed a lot of that, but there are a lot of things you can do. You know, make your community attractive, be positive, and I know tax abatements are an issue, but there's a time when if you have a business that wants to come here and is looking at another town and they offer a better program, you know, we'll lose that opportunity. So sometimes you have to make adjustments that on the surface may not seem quite the right thing, but have to be done, because if you want those jobs, you have to really go for it.
Sure, the ends may justify the means, kind of.
Right.
Those are my main questions. Is there another aspect we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to tell me about? Or?
What I really would like to accomplish with this is that I want to show the community that one person can make a difference, and that the way you do that is to get involved and to become positive about your community, participate in the activities. You know, we have a wonderful Fox Theater, we have other theaters, we have all kinds of things. Come out and participate. Actually, one of my pet peeves over the years has been that I would like to see more young families take advantage of the Fox Theater shows. Most young families cannot afford that. And so we need to figure out a way that we can get people involved with families, because those are going to be the patrons of the next 20 years. So, you know, some of those things where we can work on ways to get people helping and get people happy about helping. Personally, the things that I've done, like downtown and other projects, besides being beneficial to the community, they're a lot of fun. I mean, you get to know a lot of people, you get benefits that you wouldn't anticipate.
Sure. And it sounds like it's not just the city doing something, it's not just the Fox changing something, it's all kind of a cumulative effort.
It's all of us working together. And you can't say all of us working together if some of us only want to complain and not be part of the whole program.
Sure. Well, hey, thank you so much for speaking with me, I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Vote.